Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I think there's a fair risk of me becoming resident mannequin on this review actually, because Mark is literally so enthusiastic about this bike. That's the F900 R.
So this is a really hugely important motorcycle for BMW in my opinion. Replaces, I think it's fair to say, a bike that has probably been in production for a little bit too long. They introduced the original F900 R in 2009. That is a 10-year-old bike now. And I don't think BMW would complain too much if we suggested it was getting a bit long in the tooth. And of course,
when you see that, because it's sort of like fallen out of like interest really, I think.
Oh yeah, and you know, that's reflected in the kind of offers that BMW have been rolling out of late on that particular motorcycle. I mean, safe in the knowledge they knew the new one was coming, but yeah, a very, very important motorcycle, given that in that intervening periods that market has become huge, right? Middleweight bikes now are such an important sector for all the major manufacturers. I've got to say, BMW have really put their best foot forward with this bike.
Haven't they just? And on specification alone, I mean, it's just massive, and actually for like a really super competitive price taken into account the competition.
Every time we've looked and talked about this bike, because obviously we saw this bike for the first time in Italy 2 weeks ago at EIMCA. I mean, there are so many sort of pluses for this motorcycle, but the thing that really kind of shouts the loudest is the value for money. And it's a little bit unfair really to kind of talk about that in too much detail, because it's almost like you're kind of diminishing all the other benefits of having a bike like this from BMW. But you can't argue with the fact that when you offer the entry-level bike on this product at 8,395, it's just unbelievable value for money. You know, you're buying yourself a BMW, and I know.
Yeah. I mean, you know that, and you kind of hit the nail on the head really with that, because BMW is a premium brand, it's a premium manufacturer. You know, I've like, even if you look at the cars, you know, I've owned Honda cars, I've owned other, you know, sort of car, and then I've also owned a BMW, and even on spec form, you know, if the cars are like pretty similar, you jump into BM, there's a difference.
There is
I think everybody who rides a BMW ends up, yeah, but you know, it's not a BMW, whether that's the switch gear, whether that's the way it rides, whether it's the way it brakes, you know, it just works. And on specification form, okay, they might not shout the loudest, you know, like weight on this bike is 211 kilos wet. But it will be 211 kilos wet. I mean, some of the manufacturers, I mean, I think they take them into outer space when they weigh them.
Yeah.
And of course, when
it's in a gravity box.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, everything they say about it will be the case.
Oh,
yeah. You know, they're conservative, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And conservative on the side of accurate.
Yes.
But you cannot get away from that. And at the risk of sounding like a massive BMW fanboy, what you get with this bike at that price is just outrageous, to be honest. Yeah. And they've been very deliberate about that. You know, they want to side into that market and say, you know, potential Yamaha buyers, potential Triumph buyers, potential Kawasaki buyers, you've got to look at our bike. And what they've also done, of course, in terms of a styling exercise, if you put the old F800 next to this is a huge leap forward. Yes. You know, it is a really good looking bike. I mean, Jeff has never been a massive, he's always liked his Jack bike, hasn't he? For the first time, I dragged him over to the stand in Italy, and he's absolutely loving this thing.
Is he?
You know, proportions are right. You know, the whole sort of design language of this bike is a big step forward. And again,
the sit on it feels nice.
Riding position is great.
Yeah.
And of course, the tech that comes with the bike. Now, obviously, the entry-level bike is at 8.3. We've been talking to one of the representatives on the BMW stand over the last couple of days. He's been kind enough to give us a bit of an inside track on the spec, because the bike's going to sell is the Sport. And this is the Sport model. Actually, in my opinion, it's got the nicest colourway as well. It's got the nicest selection of bits and pieces on it. So, but the spec list is it's ludicrous.
Yeah, it is.
It's in fact, it's so long that I've got the actual official spec book here. And I mean, just to give you an idea, BMW Motorrad ABS, ASD stability control, TFT with connectivity, and obviously the guys have been kind enough to turn it on this morning. How cool is that TFT display?
It's the best TFT I've seen on a motorbike, you know, and of course as well it's operated with this really nice dial that's sort of on most of the BMW
there is an actual term for that, and I can't remember it either, but it works really intuitively.
Mark. But so the TFT works really well, it looks really good, it's super bright. works really well. You've even got a lap timer on this, which I think is just like...
Well, it's got lean angle sensor.
Yeah.
It's got brake pressure sensor, so it tells you how much lever pressure you're applying.
Yeah.
Lap timer. The connectivity means that you can run sat nav through it. You can run your phone
as
through
standard.
it. Yeah, as standard.
That's really great. I think that's so cool. You just have to have the BMW app on your phone if you connect.
Yeah, yeah.
It's got the Sport. He also said has got automatically adjusting suspension, which I think for like £9.5 which is what it's going to cost.
Yeah. So retail price 9,485 on this bike.
I can't think of any other of the competitors that are sort of doing that level of tech for this price, and then you chuck into the account that's a BMW and it's going to, you know, do what it says on the tin. You know, this is going to be a really hot seller, and I think a lot of our sort of audience and customers are going to be seriously interested in this bike.
I've got to say, you know, as I mentioned before, at the risk of us kind of going round and round it is a crucial sector. You know, this is a very, very important motorcycle in my opinion for BMW, and I genuinely feel that they're offering a really, really competitive product right now.
Yeah.
Because this market is so competitive. You know, you look at the equivalent bikes out there. There's some fantastic machinery. You know, we've already been onto KTM looking at their new 890. Like you quite rightly said, Triumph 765 is a very, very well received motorcycle. Kawasaki make a very good middleweight bike. You know, there's so many good products out there. How do you differentiate yourself? Well, I've got to say BMW have done made a very good effort of that.
So it's got 105 horsepower, twin.
It's a parallel twin, so the engine has been lifted out of the old bike, but it's a vastly different engine.
Really great amount of power for a bike like this, in my opinion. It's about the perfect. I know we've talked a lot about hypernaked and supernaked. But, you know, this engine is going to be great.
Yeah, I mean, look, it offers more performance than the previous bike. Yes, the curb weight is slightly up, but it's got a low centre of gravity. Another thing with this, it's got a plastic fuel tank. I think it's 13 litres. So of course, you know, all the weight is at the bottom of the bike. So you know the centre of gravity is going to be low, which improves handling and sharpness and agility. And as I say, the spec on the Sport, and that will be the key product. That's that spec of bike, quick shifter, a massive suite of electronics on it. It's even got heated grips. Oh, I love heated grips. We just wanted to get a second opinion. Obviously, the bike hasn't been sort of released to the press yet for road testing, but you have been lucky enough to ride the bike, and a little bit in anger, as I understand it. Could you just sort of tell us a little bit about what it rides like?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were lucky enough to go and ride this on the launch videos and the promo videos over in Croatia.
Wow.
And yeah, first of all, the new motor is awesome. If you've ever ridden the old F900 R, it was a good bike, but it was starting to feel a little flat. And the new 850 motor in these 900s has got so much more drive and mid-range.
Right.
It's kind of woken the whole bike up.
Yes.
So it's kind of now, instead of wringing its neck everywhere, you're now kind of always got a ton of torque. Doesn't matter what gear you're in.
It goes.
Just absolutely goes.
Any gear.
I think that's been the biggest change for me, is that now you've got so much mid-range. Yes. You're not up and down the gears all the time. It's made it a nicer road bike.
So you can kind of really hustle the bike, as well as it being a kind of tourer, and it ticks multiple different boxes now, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's marketed as a sort of bit more of an aggressive street bike now than the old one, and it does just that. You know, we were lucky to go and play in a big warehouse, so we did a lot of big fast road riding, and it was lovely on that big beautiful flowy bend. Right. And then we had a big warehouse to play in as well, with skids and stunts and a few jumps as well. I don't know if they made the final cut, and in that circumstances it was quite a playful bike, I think.
So, I mean, kind of aside from the riding experience, a massive change in terms of the styling. So, I guess what they're trying to do is kind of match up that more aggressive look and profile with the way the bike rides as well, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. And the F900R was kind of the bike had been around a long time, you know, and in all honesty, I think a lot of people had forgotten it existed.
Well, it's like 10 years, I think, 10-year anniversary. It's quite a long time, for BMW particularly.
Exactly, and so when this came out, like I say, it needed a new styling, it needed a kind of, and a bit more of a shift towards a younger, more sporty market, which BMW's changed, in the last decade. They've come that more sporty, more aggressive way.
Absolutely. I think this has got a massively wider appeal than the previous bike. It looks modern, it feels modern, and obviously based on what you're telling us, it rides in a much more contemporary way.
Exactly that, and again, like with all the new BMWs now, you've got TFT dash, you've got rider mode, you've got all of those kind of creature comforts that we've come to expect, that then make a fast performance street bike really usable on a day-to-day basis.
Brilliant, perfect, thank you very much.
Every BM that I've ridden, and I've ridden a few now actually, which I'm
catching up with me.
I'm catching up, not quite there yet. But I've always come off and thought that the brakes are really sorted, and this looks to be no different. It's got Brembos, So we can assume that that'll be the same deal.
Yeah.
It's got S21 Bridgestone tyres, which are really good tyre. They're the same ones fitted to that Husqvarna Vitpillen 701.
Yeah.
Really great in the dry.
Yes.
I think, you know, there's probably slightly stickier options in the cold and wet, but in the dry they're absolutely fantastic. But look, here's a thought, Mark, right? So I know I've just mentioned Vitpillen 701, and I've been riding it for a month, and that has probably been my favourite bike the whole year. Yeah. Right. But
Stop
that
talking
now,
about it
at
now.
2020, that's going to be $9,000.
Yeah.
How do you think, you know, when you're talking about the sport variant with all its rider modes, with another 35 horsepower, for
it's interesting,
basically another 500 quid. I mean,
it's
this is really a great value bike. You can't underestimate that.
Do you know what, Aaron? The bottom line here is it's a great time to think about buying a new bike, upgrading your existing bike. If you're new to the motorcycle world and you're thinking about a middleweight bike, you are spoiled for choice right now. There is so much good product on the market.
Yeah.
You know, all of these new products have been released because of the Euro. You know, now because they've got their heads around Euro 5 legislation, and as a result, you know, we're seeing more powerful bikes, we're seeing lighter bikes, we're seeing phenomenal value bikes, and this to me is very much in kind of encapsulates all of those things.
Yes.
And you know that I'm in the market. I'm always in the market for a new bike. Man. I can't help myself. And you know, I mean, ultimately, I'm probably looking at changing in 12 months. But in the interim, I'm going to definitely want to ride this bike. Definitely want to try it, and it is a serious contender for me. What's also interesting, of course, is that this kind of sister brother bike, the XR, has just been launched as well. I know we're going to talk about that in another video. So that you've got a couple of this platform is creating a couple of different really interesting options for, you know, new buyers, potential buyers in the market for a middleweight style of motorcycle.
So I hope you've enjoyed that little first look at the F900R from BMW. Please like, please comment. We'd love to hear what you think about this bike, and I think we both know that this is going to be an important bike for 2020.
No doubt.
So please subscribe to the channel too, and we'll see you on the next video.